Welcome to the Brilliant Fertility Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Rose, and this podcast exists to help illuminate the path ahead of you. With expert interviews, clinical pearls, and real client success stories, my intention is to bring you hope for what's possible on this journey and to give you tools and resources to navigate the ups and downs on the road before you. If you find this podcast helpful, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite listening platform. And I have a big request. If you have a minute, can you leave us a 5-star review? And let us know, what did you learn? What did you come away with? Did you leave with that spark of hope? This helps more people like you find the podcast. My mission is to support as many humans as possible on their path to become parent. And by you sharing and subscribing, you're part of that mission too. And I'm so grateful for you for being here. Welcome back to the podcast. It is the first full week of spring, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And today's episode, I'm going to be taking a little dive into the world of traditional Chinese medicine and how it relates the energy of seasons and our organ systems, and how do we bring that into this context of optimizing fertility? So spring, we think about the birds chirping and new leaves sprouting. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the organ that is associated with spring is the liver. The liver represents the wood element. And so when we think about a little seed that sprouts and pushes up from the earth, it needs courage and hope. And these are the emotions associated with liver gallbladder. So the liver is the yin organ. The gallbladder is its complementary yang organ. And not only do these have a physical role in the body, they have this energetic, emotional, and spiritual connection to our being as well. So the liver, of course, it's our largest internal organ, and it's underneath the right rib cage. From a physical perspective, the liver is like filtering our blood. It is what is responsible for metabolizing hormones, environmental exposures. And when we see issues with increases in PMS, breast tenderness, headache, acne, painful periods, clotty periods, this is a representation to me that our liver needs some support. Now, on a set of labs, your liver might look totally perfect. So what I'm referring to by that is is the liver getting enough of the micronutrients that it needs, the amino acids that it needs, the antioxidants that it needs to perform that physical duty? And then from the traditional Chinese medicine sense, when we have stagnation, which means like stuck energy, the symptoms of PMS, acne, headaches around the menstrual cycle, painful clotty periods, like these are all associated with that stuck liver energy. And while I don't subscribe to the idea that we need to do some crazy detoxification because our liver is working for us 24/7, there are things that we can be doing to support the liver every single day to make sure that you're getting the nutrients you need, because detoxification is a very nutrient needy process. We need calories for this. We need antioxidants. We need vitamins and minerals. So I especially just going to take a moment to harp on the idea of fasting for detoxification. For fertility, this is not a thing. I do not recommend fasting. Especially if someone is using it in context of I'm going to do a juice fast to cleanse my liver. Please, let's maybe have a serious discussion about that. but we can support our liver day in, day out. But I want to talk about the energy of this as we enter spring and we enter this season that we can cultivate hope in. Not toxic positivity, false hope, gaslighting hope, but like real from the depths of our body and soul hope. I'm going to read an excerpt to you from a book that I absolutely love. It's called Follow Your Tao, written by Stephanie Nosko. Stephanie is a practitioner who's an expert in Qigong and traditional Chinese medicine. And I absolutely love her work. I love this book. It's one of the more accessible books for people who are interested in understanding the interplay of energy in the traditional medicine, Chinese medicine philosophy. So I want to read this excerpt from the book. So, the energetic function of the liver mirrors its physical function in its emphasis on movement and flow. The liver pushes upwards. Like a sprouting weed in the spring that pushes up through a cement crack against all odds, the liver faithfully defends its becoming. Remember that all organs are in communication with the Shen and are of service to your Tao. When out of balance, this upward pushing energy loses touch with the heart and can manifest as anger and rage. But when in balance, it gives you the energy to push forward towards your goals, set appropriate boundaries, and make essential decisions that are of service to your life's path. This pushing energy demands space for the heart's values and is fearless in its need to grow into its full expression. The liver energy is what lives behind the question, what's next? It is growth-oriented, at times competitive, and is always striving to improve. It is the energy behind every aspiration, daydream, and crazy idea. Like the powerful green dragon who rises from earth to heaven, bringing about transformation and renewal, the liver urges us forward to prevent our life from stagnating. The Chinese dragon is flexible, fast, agile, and at times ferocious. He is an embodiment of the yang movement of our soul and knows that if the movement stops, we will be sucked down by the entropic force of an old story. The liver cares about the world and wants to write a new story, one that is fresh and alive with the Shen's authenticity and light. I don't know about you. I've read that passage about, 8 times since the book came out. I am someone who has historically had liver qi stagnation or stuck energy in the liver channel. And I felt so connected to that passage. And as we come into spring and, taking that context to support fertility, as I do very much tune into the seasons in the Brilliant Fertility Program and with my clients, I just love that so much. I'm going to have to see if we can get Stephanie on the podcast maybe. That would be so fun. But where I really want to zoom in on that passage was the part where it talks about the liver being what's behind our ability to daydream. Now, you guys might know that I am in the middle of running the 3-day virtual fertility retreat right now. And in day 1, we ended our session with a meditation that took our participants way out into the future where your baby is already here. And what does that look like and sound like and smell like and feel like to have your baby in your arms? And the experience that people had with that meditation really varied from people who were like, man, I was really resistant. Like I couldn't see much. I couldn't feel much, to people who, were broken down in tears, who emailed me later on telling me that this experience just broke them wide open in the best way possible. So when we dream, it's part of what gives our body the blueprint to follow. If something hasn't happened yet, if we don't actually have this tangible reality of like, what does that look like and feel like, when we can dream it, we can actually bring that closer to reality. I don't want to give you a sense of like false hope or some icky, like, oh, we can manifest anything kind of bullshit. Like, this has been my lived experience and the experience of so many of my clients that when we find a way to dream, the actions begin to line up. The people who are meant to come in and help you start to almost magically appear. So if we feel blocked from being able to dream, that's a signal to me that the liver energy needs some love. That liver meridian needs some love. And, on the flip side of that liver gallbladder coin, we have the gallbladder, which of course physically is meant to house the bile and release bile when we consume fat, and it receives the signal from the hormones that tell us, oh, okay, it's time to contract and release that bile. Even if you don't have a gallbladder, if you had your gallbladder removed, you still have the energy of that organ. You still have a gallbladder meridian in your body. So this is still completely relevant. But the emotion of gallbladder is courage, if we can call that emotion. And what's fascinating about courage, and if you're just interested in this work and diving into it more deeply, the book Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins has a really amazing breakdown of courage being the tipping point of, like, if we're in a negative state, if we're in a victimhood state, like, what emotion is the tipping point towards transformation, towards writing a new story? And that is courage. So as we come into spring and we are looking at, all right, how can we physically support people? Because yes, our nutrition is important and our sleep is important and our environmental exposures are way more than our ancestors ever had to deal with. But how can we also foster the hope and the courage to keep going, to have the resilience and to dream, to keep dreaming and to keep believing in what's possible for you? And it's a vicious or a virtuous cycle, right? So when I think of the times when, like, my liver chi has been real fiery, it has presented for me as headaches and painful periods and premenstrual symptoms that are more intense, and rage. And I didn't necessarily grow up like witnessing people who were angry. I had a very peaceful upbringing, but I have found myself in several times in life having moments of feeling rage and not knowing what to do with it. And so there were times when I just shoved it down. And where I, really realized many years ago that it was time to do something differently, this is before I did my hypnosis training, was after, a pretty long stretch of a month of, like, our whole house had COVID, and then we got the stomach flu, and then my husband was traveling, and I had, these two small children, and I was so tired. I hadn't slept well in weeks. And I think that was like the weekend after the stomach flu. And so I hadn't, like, slept at all in days. And I just felt like I like literally kicked a hole in a wall, which I was not proud of at the time. And it brought up so much shame as well. But I was like, oh my God, like, well, where has that rage been hiding? And so knowing that in that traditional medicine, Chinese medicine model, rage is coming from the liver. And when we suppress, we will have symptoms. And sometimes those symptoms we try to interpret with our very logical mind, with our lab work. And oftentimes the labs come back totally normal. And this is why I have such a deep appreciation for traditional Chinese medicine, is that we're looking at the whole person, their symptoms, their tongue, their pulses, to better understand what is that underlying pattern telling us versus what do these labs say, because the labs can't tell us everything. And you can go back and listen to the episode about labs. You can also go back and listen to the episode about acupuncture for a little bit more of the TCM philosophy. But as we focus in on the liver, gallbladder and the spring energy and bringing more hope and courage into your world today, I'm going to just give you some practical tips for nourishing the liver as we come into spring. So, number one, we definitely need some deep nourishment. And what this looks like in my practice is I advise people to eat really good quality protein. I am an advocate for eating animal-based proteins because it is so nutrient dense. Dark leafy green vegetables, especially your bitter greens. So we're thinking arugula, we're thinking dandelion greens if you can get your hands on them. The bitter taste is stimulating to the liver gallbladder. So again, it can help move that energy, move that chi. You can also use bitters. You can actually buy like bitters tincture and just put a couple drops on the tongue or a couple drops in water. It's one of my favorite hacks for improving digestion for myself. Like I know that for me, when I have had periods of higher stress and I've got that liver energy really fired up, I tend to get bloated. It doesn't seem to matter what I eat. And so I do a little bitters with warm water, and that really helps. I don't need it all the time, but I find it really essential when I'm working through one of those patterns. The other thing I love to incorporate in my practice is castor oil packs. And these packs can be done over the liver area. And I typically only use these during the follicular phase and not during the menstrual cycle itself, so not during the bleed. But castor oil is this thick, viscous oil, but it has the capacity to actually absorb through all the layers of the skin. And so I use this as a support for the nervous system because it just gives this very nourishing, relaxing experience of being cared for. But there's also some anecdotal evidence to show that we have improvements in premenstrual symptoms when we regularly use castor oil packs. So some people believe that it may actually improve the flow of bile and help the liver with its detoxification processes. I'd love to see more research on it. I don't know that we have that, but I do use these in practice, and anecdotally, I have seen good results with them. The third thing that I would focus in on is like actually being present to your emotions. Because anger, rage, frustration, irritability, jealousy are all emotions that can be associated with liver chi stagnation. It's kind of like what is the egg and what is the chicken, right? It's like, are we kind of stagnant because we haven't been moving the body and eating well, and therefore we have this liver chi stuck and that makes us angry? Or have we experienced something, boundary being crossed, something traumatic that we witness and we're angry and we need full processing of that, but we don't feel resourced and we're shoving it down and now we have stuck liver energy? For me, it's usually that latter one. When I'm not present to my emotions, when I am not using practices that allow me to be present to the emotion, to fully feel, to process and release, discharge that from my body, that's when I personally start to become more symptomatic. So in daily practice, that can look like just slowing down a little bit, maybe pausing, setting a timer that goes off 3 times a day for 2 minutes just to check in with yourself. Say, like, how do I feel today? Like, is there any emotion that I'm present to right now? Is there anything that I was aware of earlier, but just had to put aside because I was in the middle of a meeting, or it was just like it didn't feel appropriate to respond in the way that I felt the urge to in that moment? And how can I really be with that and process it? Now, with something like intense anger, frustration, irritability, sometimes just like going to meditate isn't going to be the best match for that emotion. So our resourcing tool, our processing tool needs to be a match for the level of intensity of the emotion. So maybe first, you go punch a pillow for a few minutes or you scream into the void, and then you can go meditate. But we need a full witnessing of that experience. And if that's not something that you currently feel safe to do on your own, then working alongside a provider who is trauma informed and has the training to support you in facilitating the witnessing and the release of that emotion. So people who do somatic work, you can go back to our episode with Stacey Ramsauer to learn more about somatics. I love using somatics in my practice. People are always so surprised at how quickly they can work through an emotion. We'll actually have an interview coming up with one of my patients who describes that initially when we first started talking about emotions, she was like, "Oh my God, what a burden. Like I don't want to deal with emotions. It takes so much time and so much effort, so much work." The reality is that what it requires most of is presence. It's not time, it's not effort, it's presence. And the more presence you can bring in to your world, the smoother you'll be able to experience the emotions, all of them, the good ones and the ones that are less comfy. You've probably heard me say it before, but I don't believe there's any such thing as a bad emotion. They're all just part of our inner compass and all here to teach us something. And this is, the direction that we've taken the 3-day virtual fertility retreat. This time is, because I do, change up our material based on where we are seasonally, what is coming through for our participants. But in day 2, I gave tools that very quickly activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And when we do that, we're activating presence, right? So instead of being in that fight or flight mode, having to rush through everything, hurry through everything, just taking a pause and being able to stay present to what you're experiencing right now. What is the truth of this moment? From that space, it becomes so much clearer what you may need as an individual. And not everyone needs to be on some, crazy liver cleanse. Not everyone needs to be eating bitter greens all 3 meals. So when you are actively setting the intention to stay present, checking in on your emotions, like the chi is going to flow more regularly. The chi is your energy. That's going to flow more efficiently anyway. And you can also, from that state, tune into what your body needs, tune into your intuition on, what your nutrition should look like for you. Like our labs can give us some information. We have, some great guidelines that have come through the work of Lily Nichols, who we also have an interview coming up with in her books on real food for fertility and real food for pregnancy. But we always look at the individual. And because we can't measure everything on a lab, we have to look deeper. We have to take better history, and we have to give people the opportunity to tune into their own intuition on what's best for them, because you, my friend, you, my listener, are the expert in your own body. And sometimes, yes, we do need expert guidance, but you are the only one living in your body. You are the only one living your life. So at the end of the day, you get to make the call, and that brings a lot of power back to you, and that can move energy too. So when we are stuck and we feel powerless, that weakens the liver chi, creates more stagnation, creates a situation in which we feel hopeless, right? So where can we gather some of that back, right? That's where my life's work is. It's not just about helping you get pregnant and stay pregnant at any cost. It's about bringing your power back to you, helping your body feel safe, helping regulate your nervous system and tune into your intuition. So with what you've learned about the liver today, if you were just to take one thing with you, take a moment, tune into your intuition on what would feel really good and supportive for yourself heading into spring, nourishing your liver energy. If you haven't already signed up for the virtual fertility retreat, we have one more day left and you can still catch the recordings of day 1 and 2. In day 2, we did a deeper dive into the subconscious and its role in our thoughts, beliefs, habits, our well-being. We talked about limiting beliefs and why affirmations don't work for most people. And I taught several tools that bring people into that rest, digest, parasympathetic state quickly and efficiently. In day 3, we're going to be going into the embodiment of your fertile identity. What does that actually look like? Because there's so much information in the world. There's so much that you have access to, and it's really easy to become an information hoarder. But how does the implementation of that information and the embodiment of a fertile identity actually change this picture? It might be the missing piece. So I'll drop the link to join the retreat in the show notes. It is brilliantfertility.com/3-day-fertility-retreat. And I welcome you to join and participate to the fullest. It's just so incredible seeing what has come through people through that retreat, and being several months out now from the first one that we did, getting the messages from people who are getting their BFPs after years, using the practices from the retreat that they learned months ago, which is so cool. So anyway, I'm sending you lots of love as always. Sending lots of love to your liver and gallbladder, especially. I hope you can get out, get some sunshine today, appreciate the little sprouts coming through the earth, appreciate flowers blooming, and staying present. Until next time.